First up, your response, a cursory response to these reforms which have been pending for a very, very long time. Now that they have happened, they are going to put us on the track to an economy which is not only resilient. Why I use the word resilient is, of course, considering that we have the American tariffs to deal with. And secondly, this is also something which promises prosperity, other than the prosperity that the Indian economy has been able to self-generate for the last few decades.
Good evening, Vineet. Good evening to my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. My apologies. I think there was some sudden collapse of network, which I couldn't speak what I wanted to last time. But thank you for coming back to me. I think if you look at a few months backwards, first of all, the RBI cut down the rates. Then in the budget, the 12 lakhs magical rebate given to income taxpayers, combined with GST, and a good monsoon, reasonably good monsoon. It's been a little excessive in certain areas, but reasonably good monsoon, I would say, apart from the bad impact of floods in some areas. I think it's a perfect recipe for a growth engine to be firing at all cylinders. And it is, for that matter, 7.8%. If there was a slowdown in pockets in some of the sectors, I think that will be ironed out by this particular step. So this GST is a huge reform. My back of the envelope calculations, I had spoken to your channel yesterday as well, says that somebody earning a salary of 100,000 rupees a month, spending about 40,000 rupees only on groceries. Let's not talk of air conditioners, refrigerators, or buying a car. I mean, that can be kept apart for now. So we'll save about 4,000 to 5,000 rupees. And if he has to go and buy a car, he has to go and buy a refrigerator, an air conditioner, a dishwasher, a washing machine, so and so, he ends up saving more. So what does a person typically do when you save money? A psychological survey in financial respect shows that when you're used to spending 40,000 rupees a month on your groceries, what you would typically do, and if you save 4,000, what you would typically do is there's only 20% chance that you're going to put that money in your bank and build an SIP or probably deposit in another account. You will end up spending because you're used to spending that. So you'll end up spending in a different item, improving your lifestyle, going for a better brand, or buying more of the same thing, which probably you were a bit frugal in buying. So so it's going to boost consumption, it's going to boost demand. And if we move forward, this is going to expand the production capacities. You end up setting new factories. You'll have these exporters who've been suffering from the Trump drama. You will find some of them that, okay, let's forget about America for now. Let's set up a factory. There's a 65 to 70 crore, middle class in India, including the neo middle class. Let me start producing something for them. I already have a factory. I already have a machine. I've got manpower. Let me invest some money which government's hand holding. So this is going to provide that impetus, which is so much required. Now, why is it required? Because somebody would say, why would you need it? Because you're already growing at 7.8%. The reason is the global headwinds and the Donald Trump drama. I think so that is the problem which we have to encounter, and we should not forget, because the kind of bullying that we are witnessing from the US, he's trying to pressurize the EU and some of the other countries to put sanctions against trade with India. So if, God forbid, that be the situation, we have to prepare ourselves. We've got $825 billion plus of export. But if there is a danger to a certain extent for that number, we have to be prepared. And I think there is enough demand locally. We are a consumption-driven economy. 60% of our economy is comprised of consumption. So this is a step directly towards consumption. And then it helps 1.5 crore beneath the registered dealers who've got GST registration with them. And it helps the government. It will bring additional revenue. The Laffer theory says that typically a small bump in the tax collections, eventually you will end up seeing more compliance. Your tax collection is going to go up phenomenally. So I think this is across the board a revolutionary reform. I would say after GST, this is the biggest tax reform which has been seen in this century, because across the board cut on literally all the items. Literally, there are a few items which have moved to higher, from 12 to 18. But almost 90% or more than 90% items have moved downward. Never before such a massive step has been taken for a price reduction. Let me not call it GST for a moment. This is a straightaway case of price reduction induced by the government. It is upon the industry now. I'm getting to hear some shady voices from the industry. We will try and absorb some of our additional costs and not pass on the entire thing, although the Commerce Minister has been requesting repeatedly to the industry. So if that mischief doesn't happen, and the entire thing is passed on, I see a 5 to 15% reduction in prices. I can decipher this even more as we progress, Vineet.